Call the meeting to order.
Okay, the meeting has been posted according to open meeting laws.
Roll call.
President Seeger.
Here.
Trustee Alexander. Here. Trustee Nugent. Here. Trustee Johnson. Here. Trustee Renucci.
Here.
Trustee Smalley. Here. Trustee Wisniewski.
Here.
Reminder, everybody, please use your microphones, and anybody that wants to participate will need to use the podium and the microphone. We are broadcasting this meeting. Citizen participation per Village Resolution 2017-01. Anyone wishing to address the Village Board during citizen participation will be allowed 5 minutes. Your subject can be anything, whether on the agenda or not. The Village Board should not engage in a discussion regarding comments because it was not part of a publicly noticed agenda. Upon conclusion of the citizen participation segment, members of the audience are not allowed further comment unless they are participating in a public hearing or specifically allowed by a majority vote of the Village Board due to involvement in an agenda item. Mike?
My name is Mike Zai, 1950 Fremont Street, and I would like to congratulate you on the square project and for putting up with all the noise. Long haul, but Saturday night proved that it's a huge success, I think, in my opinion. But a future project I'd like you to consider is putting some more money toward trees in the village. I don't know if you noticed, I walk the village a lot, up and down every street, because they're not that big. I know every street very well. And there really is a lack of shade in the community. And it's a huge plus. And there's all sorts of programs. The DNR works with an organization called Tree City. I imagine you've been through some villages. You'll see a sign, this is a Tree City. And oftentimes, and I think in the past, did we have a program where the village went 50-50 on some trees for village residents. So, and I'm sure you want to limit what trees are planted. I think you do that already. So I'd like to see that. That's my Christmas wish for the village future. And I know it takes a long time to like that. So great holiday. Thanks.
A great holiday as well.
My name is Steve Kuhl. I live at 2905 North Shore Drive. I'm here to talk about the ongoing project with the dam and the renovation of the impoundment, and I know it's not on the agenda for tonight, but I've been very appreciative because we've been able to meet Joyce Reed and myself with Matt to talk about some of the concerns that the residents in that area have, and we know that last meeting resolution was voted on in terms of moving ahead with the price and things like that, but that there can be tweaking of at least the ideas for it, and that's what I want to talk about tonight. You'll see on the screen is that one of the ideas that we've talked about for a long time what is moving the stream north, and we would really urge doing that as the Lake Association because we think it has a lot of benefits that benefit both the residents as well as the interests and concerns of the village board. And that line that I have up there, the light blue, is simply a guess. I know the engineering will have to figure out how that will flow best with the layout. But the advantage of that would be that it would continue to give the residents access and view of a pleasant water feature. They no longer have the lake, but they would have certainly that water feature. It would reduce the amount of property between the stream and the residents, which means the residents would really be interested in owning and maintaining that property between their present lot line and the stream. And that would also, by moving it north, give south of the stream, which belongs to the village, a lot more land to work with, whatever you might want to do with that in terms of parks and recreation, Also, it might be able to be configured in for wetland purposes too, in terms of water, rain issues, and so forth, because I think the south side is lower than the north side that way for handling those kind of issues. Another advantage of moving the stream north is that storm sewer piping comes and flowed into the lake, as you know, and the piping is not able, because of the grade, to go all the way to the stream where it presently is. And so it would have to run out on the property that would be private property of the residents along there, and that's a violation, I know, of Wisconsin law. And residents certainly wouldn't want to have that and the debris that would collect from that storm sewer water not getting into the stream. So the movement north would allow for that piping to happen in a way that we think accommodates both of those needs, both of those concerns. Also, that might help on cost, because the piping is a very expensive cost. Bringing that in, it would be less piping that would need to be put in, and so we kind of think or hope it anyway, and we know that that all depends on Lynch and the engineering, would be we're hoping kind of a wash with regard to the cost of the project as it's been presently voted on, and the like. So those are the concerns that we have. I was able to take a poll of our residents via email, and we have 26 people who are part of the Lake Association, and this past weekend when I sent out a poll, 12 of them were able to respond, talking to other neighbors. They certainly are in favor of this kind of approach to the project. And the two questions on the poll were, do you favor the stream being moved north? And they do, for all the reasons that I have mentioned. And then they asked a second question, would you favor owning the land between where the new stream location is and your old property line? And the unanimous consent of the group was yes to that as well. And a major concern for that had to do with, if this becomes public lands, park lands, having the boundary of the creek itself between private property and public property to allow for the privacy is really a very important consideration. So those are the things that I would hope that you would think about, consider, and as I understand it, these ideas have already been put into the hopper, and Lynch is working on cost feasibility. At the last meeting that the board had, when Lynch was speaking, he thought that moving the stream would add nothing to the timeline of getting this project done. He did not know for sure about the cost, but he didn't think it would be that much more. And we think that it adds a lot of value to the whole project if you would think in this term with regard to the concerns of the neighbors, as well as I think the larger concern of the village with making this land that has recreational and park accessibility to the public. So thank you.
Anybody else that would like to speak during citizen participation? All right, I'll close citizen participation and move on to consent agenda. One motion and a second will approve all of the following items. Any item may be pulled and voted on, from the list and voted on separately.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
I have one quick question. Do I understand the memo for number 5 that then we're caught up on the maintenance fund? We were behind on that.
That is correct. That'll bring us into compliance.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Scott, one quick question. On number 3, which was the operator licenses that have been issued since June, this list was requested by a prior board member, and I was wondering if the board still wanted to see that. Because all of those operators are, they go through Jeremy for background check before they're approved.
I think that we trust Jeremy and his decision-making. I don't know that we necessarily need to.
And I will not bring that to the board in the future.
Right, moving on to miscellaneous business, consideration of approval of Class A beer liquor license to New Age Laser Skin Solutions LLC, premises located at 2100 Church Street, known as New Image, Billy Lair, agent, for the period of December 7th to June 30th.
These are normally put into the consent agenda, however, this was an unusual case, and I did want to make sure that everyone realized that this is, so, miscellaneous business, so that you saw this as an unusual situation. Based on our census numbers, we do, if this is approved, we will still have one, Class B liquor, or Class A liquor license available.
Did that increase with the census results?
It did, and I'm using the census numbers from 2020 that we used for the redistricting, yeah. It increased by 1.
And so this individual would need to reapply in June?
Yes, this is a partial year.
Motion to approve the Class A beer liquor license to New Image Laser Skin Solutions, Church Street.
Right, there's a motion, a second. Any discussion?
I'm gonna have to abstain because, one of the people that works there is a tenant of mine. I'm going to abstain from the vote.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Consider recommendation from CDA for a preliminary designation of a portion of the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, funds to grant program to be developed for business impacted by COVID. This is a discussion point that we had at the CDA level, talking about the potential for ARPA funds and the businesses within our community that have been impacted by COVID. The ARPA funds have certain regulations on how they can be distributed. We have, well, as Eileen has stated in her memo, a little over $200,000 so far from what is going to be around a $400,000 total figure that they're going to be allocating toward the village. Those numbers, the regulations on what they're indicating we can utilize those funds for will be changing, to be very fluid. But one of them that seems to be a pretty constant is assisting in the businesses that have had any kind of hardship. So I brought it up at the CDA level about the potential for maybe doing something like this and utilizing those funds for it. It was coming out of our budget or capital fund or any general fund in any way, but just from ARPA funds. And it's not decided on any kind of dollar figure or percentage, or even any kind of ratio of how to develop it. But in a sense, this is coming to the board to maybe have a conversation about whether it's something we want to get involved with, if it's a good distribution of those funds, and if it's something that you would like staff to start developing.
Scott, well, I'm sorry, I just one quick question. This is for all businesses in the village, correct?
Yes, that's what the intent of it would be, all village businesses that have been affected by COVID.
I think this is a great idea because, I mean, that's the whole point of really a lot of this was to help the businesses. I know we did have some reduced, I guess, we're having in 2022 reduced revenue because of, so I think we ought to talk about that as well, not necessarily tonight, but some portion of that. I know we have the facade grant, and I've seen lots of great work with that, and maybe there's that or some other internal repairs or maintenance that maybe heard that we might go to help out with that. I think the facade grant would be individual on its own, right? That's really not, this isn't tied in with the facade grant.
No, yeah.
This is really just an identification of the ARPA funds and funds by way of financial hardship, not by way of increased facade improvements or anything like that.
Yeah, if somebody, I think we'll have to come up with some sort of criteria for, pointing at, what was my impact, that COVID had on my business or something like that, but we'd want to make sure it's not. And thinking about how the Milwaukee County is doing this is pretty broad as to what you can. So I think it's great that we're going to help out the business.
And as you said, there's going to be a much broader discussion about the overall fund. So, from your discussion tonight, if this is the direction the board would like to go, I will begin looking and seeing if our community has developed a similar program, or maybe I can get several examples. Some communities have been very, very quick to decide how to spend ARPA funds. I haven't taken that approach. Number one, I really haven't had time to delve. Two, I figured the direction would be changed. Exactly what happened with the CARES Act, and in front of me I have some literature from Baker Tilly that came through on Friday talking about this transformational, this flexibility act and how transformational it will be for communities. So they're already looking at relaxing some of the ways that we can allocate those funds. And then there's other opportunities for funding with the Infrastructure and Jobs Act and the Build Back Better Act. So there are going to be other things to discuss in conjunction with this, and we can kind of talk about allocate when we have it. It's us started on working on a program.
Would somebody in a TID though have to be different rules?
Off the top of my head, but I wouldn't think so. I think this would be a village-wide program, theoretically, depending how you set it up anyhow.
Would they have to then show proof, though, of any action because of the COVID, that, that's what the money is for, right?
Well, that's part of this. We're just trying to give staff direction to develop something. And yes, there would be some kind of proof that would have to be presented to us to identify, yes, we did need. But I'm guessing, everybody okay with this, exploring the idea of it? You really need it, right, Eileen? We'll move on then. East Troy Area Emergency Service District, employee consideration and employee transfer agreement with East Troy Area Emergency Services District.
So the first item that we have to consider is the agreement that our attorneys drafted. I think the agreement itself is pretty simple, straightforward. The Emergency Services District Board still needs to review and approve it, but so far I've had several people look at it associated with the Emergency Services District, not heard of any concerns. Agreement. It's important that we get this approval done before the January 1st date. Because I didn't know what our meeting schedule would be, which is our next item on the agenda for December, I had suggested if the board's comfortable approving this, allowing for minor changes as long as the attorney doesn't feel it needs to be board, which would authorize President Seeger and Clerk Alexander to sign off on the agreement with some minor changes if they're necessary after emergency services.
Motion to approve the Troy Area Emergency Services District employee transfer agreement with the authority for minor change.
Discussion? Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
So the next item was a summary of modifications to the personnel manual, and I apologize we weren't able to include that in the board packet. That was being worked on by the fire chief and sent to me, which I did share with board members in advance of the meeting. It just wasn't incorporated with packet materials. I just wanted to summarize. He had that summary of the sections being changed, and I didn't get a good chance to read it before it was forwarded to everybody, so I wanted to summarize what these sections were so you understand them. Section 1.4 has to do with village management rights. That has to be disciplinary action, hiring, promotions. And most of these, he is saying that he plans to be a minimum in line with village standards. He just wants to make them specific to the fire department. Section 2.3 was related to licenses and certifications. so again, more specific to the fire department. Section 2.4 has to do with job vacancies and recruitments. Section 2.5, submission of applications, and then 2.7, 2.8, and 2.10 that he talks about changing our oral, written, medical, and the orientation period. And Section 3, 4, and 5 are, Section 3 is conditions of employment, so that's a big one we're going to have to address because working hours are much different because they obviously work a much different schedule than we do. Benefits, holidays, vacation, sick, retirement, jury duty, and bereavement, a lot of those changes have to do again with their scheduling in our language. Our language says days, but for them a day is 24 hours. So those will need to be modified to make sense for their schedule. And then discipline and employment, employee communication is Section 4. So I wasn't sure how the board felt about this, seeing this summary, and again, not knowing our meeting schedule, and if you would be seeing this again by January 1st. So I didn't know if the board would be comfortable approving modifications as long as our attorneys are comfortable with them, or if you'd rather see those before they're incorporated in the person.
Some of those sections sound like things that we probably already have addressed in the union contract. Well, I was just thinking because your team's working on a 24-hour schedule.
No. We're at 3-2-4-2? I always get it wrong.
Well, I was just thinking, though, about how we define day versus night.
No, that's
okay.
not. They're much different than the way they're working.
Yeah,
So,
we're just talking about lengths of shifts.
yeah.
That's the big issue, right?
Yeah, so if we say 3 bereavement days, for them, that's 3 24-hour shifts, which is then not only 3 days, but 2 days off in between 2 of those days. So we just need to modify language to say 24 hours. You know, those are the type of things he's looking to address. But I'm just really looking for the board's direction, how you would like to go through that process. The district board's going to have to review all these modifications, and then you have to formally approve them being incorporated in the personnel manual.
I'm certainly comfortable with, not talking about any radical changes here. We're schedules, and I'm fine with it.
Eileen, didn't you say, overall you want to revisit the whole personnel manual? That's a more appropriate time.
Correct, and we were hoping to start that in late fall, but it hasn't started quite yet. I wanted Jason to be done with his ridiculous projects he was managing before we started that. So, yeah. So, yes, we are planning on getting that going now. I think that we should have a motion to approve incorporating the modifications provided the attorney finds them acceptable.
We'll make a motion to approve the incorporation of the personnel manual amendments for emergency services, assuming the legal counsel has no issues.
Second that.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, discussion regarding December, January meeting schedule in conjunction with holidays.
So, your next regularly scheduled meeting would be December 20th. We did try to incorporate everything we could on this agenda to give you the ability to not have a meeting if it's not necessary. So right now I do have it on the calendar as tentative, but I also didn't know what the village board members' schedules are. And then the next meeting is on January 3rd. That's a regular business day for the village. We aren't treating that as a holiday, but I wanted to have just a discussion. There were concerns with holding meetings in conjunction with the holidays or either date.
I would prefer skip the December meeting and get back to work on the 3rd.
I agree. Fine with me.
I mean, if something like you need this approved or do a special session.
Right.
So the 20th is tentative. If we need it, it'll be off, but if we need it, we have it available. And the 3rd is our normal meeting.
All right, moving on to ordinances and resolutions. Resolution 2021-24, adoption of 2022 municipal fee schedule.
Yeah, okay, so we do this every year. One of the things that we talked about recently that is not included in this was, a change to the rental fees for the Grandstand concession stands. And that has not been incorporated because Jason hasn't gotten back to us with the estimated maintenance fees for that fan grill thing. So we're gonna wait till we get that information, and then I'll bring that back and we'll incorporate it into the schedule. Other than that, the changes were highlighted in yellow as had been brought back to me from the department head.
Move to approve resolution 2021-24.
I'll second it.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, moving on to reports. Verbal update on the multi-use trail.
Okay, so everybody knows we're talking about the multi-use trails, the new trail from the dam bridge south to Brookstone. I would be very surprised to see it progress any further than it is today until spring. If you remember back in August, we had, the contractor started the project. We had a conflict with a fiber optic cable, and it took some time to get that moved. We did get it lowered, and the project was ready for them back by October 1st. And then the contractor came back in late October and prepped the subgrade, installed the culverts, and then basically disappeared. Not sure why, but we have reached out to him multiple times. He's not returning phone calls or emails now. Tim Lynch sent him a letter today about liquidated damages. So just wanted to bring you guys up to speed on it. Obviously, it's a little frustrating that we weren't able to complete that. We do have the street lighting on, and essentially it could be walked on, it could be used, but we will not be able to maintain it in the wintertime just because of the gravel condition it's in. The last conversation we had with the contractor, he had said that the subgrade was not going to hold up to paving, and he had suggested we wait till spring. We came back and said, okay, we'll prove that to us with a proof roll. And basically what a proof roll is you take a loaded gravel truck and drive it across the subgrade to see if it sinks in or if it holds up. And that's where we are, and he never did that. So now the ground is, beginning to freeze, obviously, so it's not going to be ideal conditions for paving, even if we could get asphalt. So kind of where that's at right now. I will tell you, he has never asked for a dime for any of the work he's done, so we haven't paid him anything yet, but that's just kind of the situation.
So I just want to throw out my 2 cents on this one. I kind of agree with the contractor 100% on the idea of the grade itself, and letting it sit through a winter cycle like this is going to have a really great base when we're all done and in springtime to put it in. Not a situation where we're trying to accommodate businesses or roadways. It's a trail that used to be just grass at one point. As frustrating as it may be, I hope you're just brushing it off, because it shouldn't be something we should be truly upset about or pondering what are we going to do to get this guy. Let's just wait till spring, let him get the job done and do it. It was grass. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand completely what you're saying and appreciate your positive comments. It's just a little frustrating because it's something really that should have been able to be achieved. So that's where I'm at, but
You did have a couple of other things you were taking care of at the time, though, too, right?
how long are we going to be able to use that excuse?
I think you can lean on that one for a couple of years.
At least until they do 20.
All right, moving on. Emergency services minutes from 10/21. Any questions, 40?
To say that sounds like that the new chief is really on things, and especially with the unfortunate fire in the town. Well, and I was, good. The fire dues thing jumped out at me too, because that was an ongoing problem when I.
Looks like we're gonna be able to achieve a little more revenue, yeah.
What, Booth Lake minutes from, 10:20? Airport minutes, 9:13 or 10:11?
How are things at the airport?
Read the minutes?
I'm sure the answer will be too.
Well, I was not able to make the November meeting. I had a family emergency. I mean, a lot of the projects out there have been stalled. I think a lot of, not due to the airport or the village, more for the BOA. And
I thought maybe it was a square.
No, but we cannot blame the Jason and the square on that one. So, I mean, I think their open house that they had went well. I will say Walter put in a lot of work to make that happen. You know, letting them use that hangar. I think the BOA right now, and I know you and I have been trading some emails, Jason, about, you know, some of the funding they owe us, and just they're dragging their feet. That's my biggest worry out there. We will probably have to discuss face mask policy for out there in order to be compliant.
Our big project for the airport in '22 is the updating of the airport layout plan, which is also going to be in the BOA's hands. So, I mean, if they don't get caught up on some of these other things, I would be concerned about that as well.
I mean, some of these are payments that they owed us last year.
Would that layout plan, Jason, would that include possible hangars on the east side?
Yeah, so it's our opportunity to take a look at the plan and amend it how we feel necessary as to, you know, essentially what the next 10 years projects could look like at the airport.
The good positive work, Lori and I and Tim Pruitt have been working on the current version of the lease agreement, and I've gone out there and met with the hangar owners about what they're interested and not interested in. So I think we're going to have be in a good spot for when we are able to do the ALP, and we can start talking about what's the process to actually start building new hangars out there, because there's definitely there's a pretty long waiting list, isn't there, Lori?
There's about 55 to 56 people on the list. However, they are not all viable.
But about half of those people are people who are already at the airport today. So they're people that we interact with. It's not like we're trying to attract a whole bunch of new people that they just won't show up.
When we did the survey earlier this year, though, we had a pretty good response.
So is that loaded enough of an answer for you?
That gives me a lot. I appreciate it.
How about any questions about the November financial report?
Yeah, actually on the, not the fund summary, for water. For the water utility, we're in good shape there now, right? With the water utility? We're not gonna be having to raise rates anymore for people for a while? I had a couple of people ask me that question, that's why I'm asking.
Only go every so often anyway.
That's dictated by the PSA anyhow. So
I understand that too, but still, we're the bearer of the bad news, so that's why I'm asking.
Next time they ask you, though, explain to them that it's something that's out of our control, and that it's the PSA that truly regulates that, so that they understand. I want to make sure they know where and why those rates
I always tell them that.
Okay, perfect. All right, Make a motion to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 1985 1C to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data for any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibilities, department heads. And 1985 1G to confer with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to adopt by the body with respect to litigation in which it is likely to become involved, dam and impoundment area.
Second.
Roll call?
President Seeger.
Yes.
Trustee Alexander.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson. Yes. Trustee Nugent. Yes. Trustee Renucci.
Yes.
Trustee Smalley. Yes. Trustee Wisniewski. Yes. Thank you.